Welcome to the Why We Advocate podcast. I'm your host, Jasmine Uribe, and joining us today is Roger Roberts, Senior Director of Crisis Response Services. We're excited to talk to you all about advocacy and the initiatives that NOVA has planned for our community. Let's dive right in. Hey, Roger, how are you?
Good, Jasmine. How are you? I'm really happy to be here.
I'm happy that you are here. It's going to be a great conversation. So, with
Mhm.
that, here's our first question. What is crisis response when it comes to the field of victim advocacy? And what is NOVA's role in crisis response?
Wow, great question and great way to start too. So wonderful. So in victim advocacy, crisis response really refers to the immediate or short-term, assistance support that we provide to individuals who've experienced some sort of a traumatic event or crisis, like domestic violence, sexual assault, any other, types of crime. The goal is, for us to be able to help them to regain a sense of stability and really kind of reduce the impact of that crisis on their personal well-being. So the support that, we can provide really kind of includes, giving them that safe and confidential space for any kind of disclosure that they may need to do, offering any kind of immediate assistance with practical needs, and then connecting victims with resources for ongoing support. And NOVA has played a huge role in crisis response since its inception in the early 70s. But really, crisis response for NOVA started in 1986. Our very first formal crisis response started in Edmond, Oklahoma, after a shooting that took place in the post office there. Since then, NOVA, we have trained over 16,000 plus individuals all over the country and internationally to provide these responses, these services to individuals and communities. So, and really following both man-made and natural disasters. So in our program, we respond to natural disasters like the wildfires, tornadoes, flooding. And we are what we do is we actually train individuals and communities to in our crisis response framework. We consult with communities who've been impacted by crime and crisis, and then we also deploy teams to assist those that have been in those impacted areas. So we know that every disaster is a local disaster, but we know that the locals sometimes get overwhelmed, and so we like to be a force multiplier. We're not first in, but we'll be there when they need us.
Thank you for sharing that. I love learning something new all the time when I talk to you about crisis response. And something that I didn't think about is how Nova can really connect with those local communities because we know where there's local responders, but they are also affected deeply by what's happening in their home. So the fact that Nova can extend opportunities for support for that community, amplify what they're doing. And you said over 16,000 trained crisis response responders since the
Yeah.
80s. That is amazing. And I know so many of those crisis responders come to NOVA's annual training event. So NOVA's 51st annual training event is happening this summer. Can you
Mhm.
share more ways of how those crisis responders or other victim advocates that are part of our community can come together to network and celebrate their accomplishments at NOVA 51?
Oh, absolutely, Jasmine. So I'm excited too that, again, even being virtual this year, there are still many opportunities for folks. And for us, really opportunities for folks who've never been able to attend a NOVA conference, that we can hopefully get them to this one to be the first one. Then they can come in person, hopefully next year. But yeah, so for our CRT responders specifically, we're going to have a fun gathering a few weeks before the event. And that is really it serves a couple of purposes. One is to help them to orient to this virtual platform that we're going to be on, for them to have an opportunity to network with those folks that we've talked about that are from all over the world, and here in the US that we've trained. And then ultimately, hopefully they're going to have some fun and we're going to win some prizes. I have a fun game that I've come up with. So we're going to be doing at the gathering. So folks can actually win some CRT specific prizes if they come. And then just in general with the conference, I'm so excited that this year there are many sessions that are really kind of specific to crisis response. So a lot of our folks are going to be able to come and attend some, very specific to what it is that we're doing in crisis response to get that information firsthand, to get some of our new best practices and information. And really the other piece is that even if they're not victim advocates, and I say that, Jasmine, because I like to say that, every victim advocate is a crisis responder, but not all of our crisis responders are victim advocates. When we train in these communities, we train educators, we train nurses, doctors, law enforcement, other first responders, clergy, community members. So we're training everyone. And they all can come and learn something new and hopefully, connect with someone else, maybe even in their area or somebody in their profession or discipline from around the world.
I love that. Just the idea of building connection for folks in professions that they don't think, well, I'm not necessarily a victim advocate. If you're supporting and connecting folks to resources, yes, you are. There's a way for you to get involved. And that's the power of community. Here at Nova, we say we're a community of advocates. Our whole theme for conference this year is celebrating community. And I'm just so proud of the work that you and your team are doing to bring folks together to have fun in the midst of everything that we're working through. We know that the work that we do as victim advocates and crisis responders is very taxing emotionally, physically. So the fact that we can all come together, although it's virtual, and still celebrate those wins where we can is really, really a beautiful message. So, Roger, anything else that you want to share about crisis response, the training? I'm excited. I know some of our staff get to also participate in the training. I'm due for that. So hopefully I will
Yeah.
also get to be a part of it. But if you're not already a trained crisis responder, you can definitely reach out to Roger's team, learn more about crisis response. But is there anything else you want to add about your work before we get to the last question?
I can't think of anything, Jasmine, but yeah, please reach out, get on the calendar. We have trainings that are scheduled, coming up, but we do this virtually and in person. So even if you're not able to, leave or travel to go to a training or host a training, you can attend one of our virtual trainings, and they're really good.
I agree. So thanks so much, Roger. Let's get into our last question. It does play on the name of our podcast. It's my favorite question to ask. So the name of our podcast is the Why We Advocate podcast. Can you tell me more about what your why is when it comes to this work?
Absolutely, Desmond. This is an easy one for me. I love this question. And so my why I do what I do, the teaching, the training, the crisis response. My why is to help people to be their best selves in the worst situations. And so I feel that I can do that by training people to respond to other people to help them to be their best selves, but giving people the space, the ability, the skills to just kind of elevate themselves, to do good for folks. And so it is to help people to be their best selves in the worst situations. Sometimes we find it hard to do that, but I think that's what keeps me going.
I love that why. I can't take your why, but I love that because it's so
Thank you.
important to help people in those moments where we feel we're at our low, right? Everything it feels like
Absolutely.
the world is against us. If you can be your best self during that moment, like that is such a big win. And I love that you're a part of making that change. I am sure there are many people that you've connected with or some that you haven't connected with that would give you and your team a huge thank you for building them
Please.
up when they felt so low.
Thank you.
So thank you for all you do, Roger. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Why We Advocate podcast. I'm feeling inspired. I hope you all are too. And if you haven't already registered, please do so. Register for Nova 51. It's virtual this summer, increasing the opportunities for you to connect with our crisis response community and more. So listen in to the next episode of the Why We Advocate podcast so we can hear all about how Nova is celebrating community. Thanks so much, Roger.
Thank you. Thanks, Jasmine. Bye, everybody.